really any and everything is up for negotiation. And that's really where I think the fun part of the real estate deals are. I love talking about how the deals almost died and all that, all the good details. Talk about real deals. You talk about scars, scrapes, bruises, face plants, all the good stuff that goes along with them too. That really pissed me off enough to get my real estate license, to be educated, and then further go on to get my CCIM designation, to never be put in that position again, to learn how do I dissect a deal 20 ways sideways, if you will, and then even go further in. What are all my exits? Bad news is bad news. The best thing you can do is pass it on to your team and start working together on it as fast as you can. Like, that's why I said it's AI enhanced, human powered, right? Like, you have got to still build your network. You can't just hide behind a computer all day. Deals get done many different ways.
Katie Kim joins me here today, and you can find what her team can help you with at katiekim.com. That's going to be a clickable link in the show notes. But heads up, everybody, you got a limited time because Katie's only going to take 5 people in her upcoming event, October 10th. So you take advantage of that. So katiekim.com for more information there. Could you kind of fill everybody in, Katie? What could they expect and how do you help them with their first deal?
Yeah. So October 10th, as you mentioned, is our Real Estate Developer 101 Bootcamp. If you are looking to do your first development or your next development, or if you have a business that you run and you're looking to add real estate as a secondary revenue stream to it, we're going to help you, guide you through setting up the deal, getting you and your business bankable, and walking through the deals and doing reps. If you don't have a project, we have some that we've worked with in the past. You can take one of those and we work one-on-one with you, which is why there is only 5 spaces. I work one-on-one individually with the group of 5 people in order to work them through the reps and go through the questions that they actually have to get the real deals done.
So yeah, I like the name. We'll get the real deals done. As you probably checked it out, we're Real Deal Chat, Real Deal Crew. We like the real deal. You've been I think this is going to surprise a lot of people, but you've been been involved in real estate investing in some nature since you were 16 years old. Like, what got you interested so early?
Well, I grew up in a construction real estate development family. And, so I to my parents and I say I was a victim of child labor law very early on, right? Going to soccer practice and hanging walls or always doing something. And so my first deal, as you mentioned, was at 16 and that was no money in. I was a transaction, if you will, for the deal, and then really just kept going. And when I graduated college, I just made a goal to buy a different property a year for investing. And it was a great way to start building wealth. And when you start that way and you don't necessarily need that cash, you build your life around that lifestyle. So
Yeah. So you got into that first deal with no money down. Was this a concept that was openly discussed? How did it come about?
yeah, well, actually, it was my mother was buying a bigger piece of land, and then she was going to sell it to another group, and there was a tax strategy play from going through us as a conduit, if you will. We got to sit at the table, we got to understand the deal, the difference in the transactions, and then, of course, being the negotiators that my parents raised us to be, we asked, like, okay, what's our cut in the deal? And so that got negotiated in of what was our fee. It was a really great experience because even though I grew up in construction and real estate, you didn't really learn how to put the deal together until later in life. And so that was my first peek at, like, really any and everything is up for negotiation. And that's really where I think the fun part of the real estate deals are, as you mentioned, the real deals, as you said, your show. And I like talking about that. Like, don't talk to me about fluff or the strategy's great, but like, I want the details, like what happened, when did you almost give up, what was the grit? So I love talking about how the deals almost died and all that, all the good details. So
Well, so what I find really interesting here is that I've had other people on who have talked about that their families or their parents were involved in real estate investing, and then they kind of ran the other way. like
I
at
did
first?
first. I did at
And
first.
then they found their way back. You had the same experience, huh?
I did. So I actually have a master's in computer science. So I went to college, first in my family to graduate. And I honestly thought I would never go back to the family business. I worked for a company called Accenture and I did consulting where we'd go into companies, work with technology 3 to 5 years to market and find strategic profitable solutions and implement them. I actually loved it. It was amazing. I got to go all over the world. And after about 7 years, I was like, okay, I'm ready for something different. I went to work for a tech startup and then they got bought out by Oracle. And at the time I was like, okay, do I want to go back to work for corporate? After I got out of college, I bought a condo each year. And so then it was, okay, what's the next step? And I look at like your 20s and 30s are get as many experiences as you possibly can. Like figure out what you don't like, figure out what you like. I think finding your non-negotiables or the things you don't like are even more important than finding what you do like, because that'll eventually come with the process in the road. And when I was really searching for that next step, my mom and dad said, like, hey, have you ever thought about coming back and running the family business? And it was immediately no. I've never thought about leaving Chicago. I loved it. And when we started to talk about what the opportunity would look like, my husband and I decided to move back home, take over the family company, and we ran it for about 10 years. And then we realized we wanted to take that skill set in a different direction. And so we had started the Kim Group in Chicago mostly for real estate purposes to buy our own real estate. We were already finding our deals. So we are like, okay, let's get the commission, right? Which a lot of people step in to get in their license that way. And then we relaunched the Kim Group in 2015 with our professional service division where we do developer for fee. There was a lot of developments we would do for businesses. So whether it was a construction project or a development for someone, and they wouldn't understand how to put the whole deal together. So we guide them, we hold their hand from A to Z throughout that process. And we launched in 2015, and it was so fulfilling to be able to help the small businesses, the aspiring real estate developers that we haven't really looked back. And now we've expanded into a couple markets and we consult nationwide on projects. So fun.
What markets are you focused on right now?
So right now, based in the Texas Triangle, so in Austin, Texas, we have a project in Reno, Nevada. We have a client that's in Minnesota. We have some on the East Coast, and then we're still very present in Illinois. And we just sold everything in Florida, so I can't say we're in Florida anymore.
Yeah, you mentioned Accenture. I'm very familiar with Accenture because I worked at Microsoft for a number of years, and that
Oh
was
yeah,
one of our biggest partners. Yeah.
yeah. I actually flew out to Microsoft for Accenture. They'd always send us to learn everything so we can go back and implement it in our clients.
So with your computer science background, is there anything from that training that you were able to bring into the current business?
Absolutely. I joke now I can code in 14 different languages, which means absolutely nothing with AI now, right? Like nothings. But the mindset and how you go into programming has definitely translated. And I think it's really good translation in business in general. So if you take this simple, like if then else statements, right? Well, if this happens, then we'll do this, else we'll do that. And you kind of just nest them. That has really helped me look at development in like, there's not an end, there's not a yes or no. It's okay, here's the path. It's if then else, if then else, and just keep going into that and really build that tenacious mindset that I know I bring into development, especially into the negotiations and the construction side. And so I think it's really helped me build a great foundation of just not giving up when deals get complex or hard or milestones hit you.
You mentioned that we seem to learn the most with actual real world examples. Would you mind doing that here now? Let's talk about a deal from beginning to end. I think I even saw something about how you turned a $50,000 investment to a $5.5 million project. Like, how did that come about?
So that was the Tresker's Bakery project, and one that is near and dear to my heart. I love a good urban infill project. And so it was a bakery. Tresker's Bakery was originated in 1861. And when we met them, actually in 2014, 2015 timeframe, they had rented up to that point in time. So since 1861, they'd rented. And anyone listening says, well, they've paid for that building probably 10 times over in that time frame. And they were looking to expand. But a lot of businesses, when they're looking to expand, you have to kind of make that leap before your business and your financials are ready. So what we did is we worked with them on their business plan, understood their business structure, their process, how we can make the space more efficient. And then we told the story with their numbers. And so we went to work on their capital stack. So we were able to bring in, we had an 8 financial capital stack on that. Like you mentioned, it was a $50,000 investment that our bakery owners made. The total project cost at that time was a 5.5 million, and we only had 1.8 million of bank debt. So we were able to expand them into a building that was 6 times the space, but their bakery only occupied 3 times that space. And we filled it with other tenants. But the big key is we expanded them to 3 times the space, but only 1.5 times the cost because of the different economic incentives that we could put in. So when you're talking about like the if then else, it was like, okay, if my business owner can only pay so much in rent, then I got to have my construction costs at this, else we got to bring in different opportunities. And then we kind of went into like, kept nesting into that if then else. By the development itself, we were going to increase the property taxes. So we asked the government, the village at that in that city to basically bond that up front for us. And that's what a TIF can do, one of the aspects of it. And then they also were able to help reimburse us some of the sales tax that the business would generate. So otherwise, a business their size, even though they'd been in business since 1861, they couldn't put that much debt onto the operation and be financially viable. And so that's where my nerd computer science brain just went to like, what is everything that's available to this project and to this business? And we went to work on stacking it all together.
Yeah, we talk about creative financing all the time when it comes to real estate investing, but this is kind of taking things to a completely different level. I don't think a lot of people have considered before, and we could even go back to some of the lessons we learned in Rich Dad Poor Dad, it's how does this work? Not does this work?
Oh, yeah.
Talking about is really next level when it comes to this kind of strategy.
Yeah, I definitely think in that Rich Dad Poor Dad, when you mentioned that is like, look at the strategy, what's in place. And when we go into project, I look at it like a funnel, right? Like, what do we have to work with? And then what's going to come into the project and make it? Because the creative financing, yes, you're right. Everybody thinks about it as like, okay, seller financing, maybe your percentage down on your loan. When you have a business or when you're creating money and revenue for a city, there are programs that help you and will pay for you to do that. And a lot of times people don't talk about them because they either don't understand them or they're so complex that they confuse them and they just don't engage. And the sad part is that our government created those programs for small businesses to expand. And really the only ones that take advantage of them are the bigger corporations because they have the team that understand them and that can do the modeling and everything that goes along with them.
Sure. One of the things I was thinking of was that in this case, you had this baker who needed more space, but I would imagine that with a bakery, the margins aren't like crazy high. So they needed bigger space. How did they come about to afford it? Well, you afford it by making even a bigger space and then taking advantage of renters at that point.
Yes. And with any deal, you go into it and you kind of put everything down, right? In your we call it the development analysis. So like your sources and uses, your cost and your income, and you go back and forth a little bit, right? You sway. Okay, well, that didn't work. I need to now pay my investors a return. Okay, so I got to tweak some things over here and tweak some things over here. And having a team that's willing to be tenacious and to walk through their business, we found that when we were evaluating the business plan itself, they moved a cake like 13 times. So even from a staff efficiency, it wasn't a good layout. And then by adding a basement for like stored goods and different bulk ordering, they could save about 34% off their cost of goods. So knowing how the business operates and working with them and going back and forth, again, if then else, we were able to step into their business and then curate a capital stack that would work with their financial being. Business would be able to scale at a stable rate. We only were showing like 30% increase in revenue for 3 times the space, which a lot of bankers would be like, really? Like, we could step this up. I'm like, yeah, but we're stress testing the business, right? We don't want to overextend the business. That's our first priority. And so bringing in all these other revenue sources stabilizes that structure and allows that business owner to breathe as they're expanding.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Just to remind everybody, we're talking to Katie Kim. You can learn more about her upcoming event here on October 10th, katiekim.com. That's going to be a clickable link in the show notes. If you found some value in what we're chatting about here so far, share this with one of your investor friends. It's the only way the show grows. And if you're watching us on YouTube, give us a quick like and subscribe. That algorithm really likes that. So you've had a lot of experience here, but you have had to had an experience where things kind of recover from it.
What was that?
How did you recover?
That when things went all wrong?
Yeah.
So there's many, right? As you mentioned, and as you in your show, the real deal is when you talk about real deals, you talk about scars, scrapes, bruises, face plants, all the good stuff that goes along with them too. There's a couple, I mean, I can definitely dig into. Before I really got educated on the process myself, that was a burning desire to get educated. We invested in 809 into a condo in the Chicago downtown market, where not really doing our full due diligence on it, we went into a building that later, fast forward, and again, we were riding that wave like everybody was in 2000. I'm going to think it was like 2004, 2005, of all the great rates, the low prices, everything with the market that was good. And then when 08, 09 hit and everybody was short selling and foreclosing, we couldn't get a tenant in that building to rent where we needed to rent because we had it. And it was a skyscraper and it was like 43 foreclosures were happening in that building. So by nothing that we did, we were now in the market and having to adjust and shift and pivot. And we turned to our team. And that's really been a hallmark of how we've gone into a lot of deals too, is build a very strong team around you. We ended up, sadly, having to short sell that property. And that really pissed me off enough to get my real estate license, to be educated, and then further go on to get my CCIM designation, to never be put in that position again, to learn how do I dissect a deal 20 ways sideways, if you will, and then even go further in. What are all my exits? I'm still constantly learning, and I love talking with, I'm sure you do as well on your show, is talking with people to see like, what did you learn? What did you like not see coming? And so it just helps tweak and really fine tune your radar as you go into these deals. How are you protecting yourself? So like that was one that really kicked off my formal education in real estate. And there's many other ones. There's ones, where you get tabbed, where you're halfway starting a construction project on an apartment building, a condo building, actually, when COVID hit, right? And the building was almost 100% pre-sold. I think we had 2 condos that were not pre-sold yet. And we just poured the foundation. So we had a good 6 months left to construct the building. And all of a sudden, these people who had put their house on the market, their house sold like that. And so now they're like, we have to move. We need to get out of our contract. And so we went from almost 100% sold to like 1. We actually went to 3 people that were like, yep, no, we're fine. We don't need a tight time frame, whenever. And then we built back from there. But, you're wondering, are things going to ship even on the time that they're at? Transformers went from 16 weeks to 64 weeks. And luckily we already had ours ordered. Building materials, staffing, somebody gets COVID, you have to shut down the job site. But having to constantly communicate with our investors, with our team, with our buyers, with our marketing team. I mean, it was all hands on deck. And that's when you really lean on who's on your team. And you want to make sure you have the best of the best because they'll dig in with you versus jump out and be like, see ya, we're done. And that's what I look for when I partner with people. That's what I look for in a team and even in a client, because none of these deals are really easy. There's always something that happens, whether it happens at the beginning, in the middle, or as you exit. There's always a story with every deal.
Or in having these partners, is have you implemented to make sure that decide those partnerships?
Okay, let's try. Can you ask me that
Let's
again,
do
Jack?
1,
I'm
2,
sorry.
1, 2.
Yep.
Yeah, you bet. You mentioned building a team and partnerships a couple times. Are there any tips or strategies there regarding how you pick the best people to work with?
Yes, I have a bunch of like a list of questions that I normally go through and really dig in to when we're talking to our team members. So really one, I mean, everybody asks for referrals. I would always ask for a referral of a referral. Like tell me somebody else who you've worked with. I ask the sub to speak to the subcontractors or vendors, if it is a subcontractor that they've worked with, because I want to know how you work with your team every single day. Because if we need to push a project, I got to know that you can push and still stay professional, still have that right focus of brand that like we're all working together as a team. So I like to dig deep on those referrals and ask those questions. And some of the best questions that I like to ask are like, what would your nightmare client say is the best thing and the worst thing about working for you? And also, what would your best client say? What's the best thing and the worst thing about working for you? And really dig into like, how do you show up? Because that's what you're going to really want to know. You form a partnership, right? You almost get like married for this project and you're working together. And that's what I want to see is how are you going to show up when times are tough, not just when they're great. Because, working on one job site with my uncle, we were driving to this meeting and it was a nightmare of a construction project because it was an addition between two buildings, connection points. And my uncle said, you know what I learned a long time ago? I said, what, Tim? And he goes, bad news is bad news. The best thing you can do is pass it on to your team and start working together on it as fast as you can. And that really stuck with me. It's like, I'm not going to sit here and spin and change everything, but I'm going to sit here and I'm going to tell my team, and we're going to come up with some suggestions. A lot of my team members know don't bring me a problem unless you've thought of 3 solutions before you bring it to me. You have to be. And if this was your money, what would you do?
It sounds like you're really enabling your team members to have some ownership in things.
Yes. And you have to, because I firmly think that true leadership is teaching your team how to think and how to react so that when you're not there, they think as if in alignment with you and your brand and how you want to take on the project. There was one time when my kids were young, I had one of our superintendents come into my office and he goes, okay, Katie, we have this problem. I know what you're going to say. He told me, I know what you're going to ask me. And he literally went through the 3 questions. He's going to say, okay, well, what are 3 things you do? So I thought about that. And these are the 3 things. And he went on to describe me. He goes, and then I know what you're going to say again. You're going to say, okay, what would you do and why? And he goes, and I know your last question is if it was my money, what would I do? So this is what it is and why. And he just walked straight out of the room. Like I didn't say a thing in that conversation, not one word. I was like, and he's like, yeah, but that's leadership, right? Like he knew exactly how to think through that problem. So he didn't have to call me. He didn't have to wait for me. He didn't have to second guess. And he did exactly the right thought process, thought through, and he owned that decision. And that's what I love is if you are who you say you are and you're showing up how you say you're showing up, you start to condition and train your team members how to work with you. And almost all of our team members do that. So at our status meeting, it's like, don't bring me a problem unless you have 3 solutions or 3 suggestions to talk through.
Well, if you don't mind me saying, this is typically the sign of the better coaches when it comes to real estate investing I've run into as well. The ones that we've even hired to teach us a few things, my business partner and I, we'll constantly do oh, I think I'm going to ask so-and-so regarding this. And he goes, you know what he's going to say. And then we walk through it and we do the mental exercise. Yeah, we do know what he's saying. Then we just do it.
I'm holding back a big laugh inside because there's a lot of times with my coach, because like you said, you believe in your craft, right? And you do it. So my coach, there's a lot of times we'll be like, so we had a conversation on Saturday. This is how it went. And like we go through that exercise, like, and I know you're going to say this and this, but it's those reps, right? It's those reps of training your brain to go through that process that now you can have those conversations without your coach being present and think and talk through, which I always find fun because it's like, okay, well, I could also add this. It's like, no, but you went this way with it. It was good.
Well, because you have such a strong software background, I gotta ask, like, how has automations, AI, like that technology background, how has that changed the way you do some of this?
Oh, I'd like to say 8 times 10, to be honest, because we do a lot of processes to sit with our clients and hold their hand through it. We have a lot of automation in our system because we keep our team very lean in terms of like using Zapier and Airtable and like a lot of tech. However, in our process, even with our clients, we'll bring in some of our custom chat GPTs and work through that process with them and like share the screen. The one we use a lot is called a joint venture structuring assistant. And so I have 110 questions plus that I ask our clients before you meet with the attorney. We walk through all the questions, and really it's the structure of your operating agreement, your LLC. It makes them have those hard conversations like, what happens if you have a capital call and neither one of you have capital? What are we doing then? And then it creates this document, this, if you will, this guidebook that each of the partners sign off on each of the sections. They give it to their attorney, and their attorney is like, you already thought through all this. And it's like, yep, and here's how we're going to resolve it. And these are the items that we don't have resolved yet. We need your help with. So it's helped save my clients thousands of dollars and even us tons of time when we get to those processes faster. We just actually launched last week a buy bot, build your own buy bots, a custom chat GPT that we walk them through the questions. And we put a little Katie humor into it where like, you can't be vague. So if you're vague, it's like, try again. And there's some snarky little fun lines in there. In the end, it creates a structured buy box for you and an email where you can then send it to your network and say, this is what I'm looking for. This is my offer. This is my criteria for digging deep. And then we're going to enhance it with our level 2, level 3 that we go in with our clients a lot of time with the buy box. But we really want to enable people to take that first step. And I think technology helps us do that without the fear. So even though it's a fun bot, and even if you're wanting to just go check it out, it's free. You can download it off our website and go check it out. And then at the end, you have something that enables you. So send it out to the realtors that you work with, send it out to mortgage brokers, like say, this is what I'm looking for, bring me deals. And that's going to save you time. It's going to get you more focused and is going to enhance. So we look at when we use technology, does it solve a problem for me? Like, does it solve a problem in my business where it gives me more time? Does it solve a problem for my team? And then 3, does it solve a problem for our clients? And so we have probably about 5 different custom GPTs that we use with our team in terms of with our clients and with the Real Estate Development Academy we have. So people walking through deals and doing different things, that it's our process, our brain, but AI enhanced. So, yeah.
And I like that you use AI enhanced. I've mentioned before, it seems like, right now we see everything as a nail and these AI bots are a hammer, and we're just cramming it in anywhere and everywhere where we need to enhance our core work.
Yeah. But
provide that focus.
yeah. But if we use it right, I mean, there's always going to be your extremes, right? And like you said, everything like a nail right now in this world. And I find it interesting when you talk with somebody who has not gotten into AI yet, and like the struggles, and you're thinking like, I could solve that for you in like 30 minutes. One of the big things with our small business owners is defining a board of advisors for them that they can ask the questions that they need from an operations standpoint, automate things. I mean, as you mentioned, there's so much happening that we are going to see the solopreneur become a billionaire, like, I think within the next year. I don't think it's within 5 years or 10 years. I mean, every time I look at it, I'm like, oh, I can automate this, I can automate that. Like, okay. But you still, a lot of the times, need that human confirmation. Like, is this what we really want? Is this part of the process? And have that logic check, because, they can hallucinate, right? AI can go off on extremes and bring false information into the process.
Right. Yeah. But putting up those guardrails was relatively straightforward as well. So it's just a matter of taking a minute. I think where people get, you mentioned hallucinations. I think where people get a little burned on it a bit is that they go in there treating it like it's Google. And when it doesn't produce the result that they were expecting, like right off, they just need to give it a little work, just like anything else.
Yeah. The tweaking, the iteration process is key. And that's why I mentioned the build your own buy box, and we only released level 1. I was so intense on getting the whole thing out and getting level 1, level 2, level 3, because we step into it a lot more with a lot more clarity with our clients. I'm like, I want them to have all of it. Like, let's go. And my team finally had to pull me back and be like, start with level 1 and we'll continue to tweak. Because if you don't, and you have a great prompt one time and then you create something, well, it's iterative. So it may not come out the same the next time. And that's, I think, what people got to watch before they release things or use them in their business with their team members.
Yeah. I have something that helps me with the YouTube channel, right? With YouTube optimization. And it's kind of funny because I have a project in there. If I like a result in one of with the chat history, if I keep that one going, then it's a little more consistent with what I expect and what I want. But yeah, it's like it starts over again. It's just like you said, it needs the tweaking. It needs a human element there that kind of spot checks a few things.
Yeah. And you can actually use it to then create more of what you want, right? So if you would take that, not to get to an AI discussion, but like if you would take that chat thread and you would even say like, hey, and I like what's called daisy chain, I'll add another custom chat GPT bot into the conversation. I mean, like, help me create a custom chat GPT that would, and you can use chat GPT to create chat GPT. Like, that's where I'm like, crazy.
That's what I've told people too. If they want to create a prompt from a proper prompt, ask ChatGPT, how do I create a prompt? Ask me the necessary questions to create the proper prompt for this task.
Yeah.
It goes a long way. But, it reminds me, like, I've been using N8N and Make.com for a few things. And I've been incorporating an AI agent to check the previous AI agent to just kind of, to validate the results.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't meet the requirements there, it kicks back and tries again. So there's even ways to do that within an automation to just do a validation check.
I might swipe that one from you. Like, when I first did it, like, I wanted like a program, right? I wanted the bot to do everything. And then learning is like, no, have the bot be really good at one thing. And then bring another bot in to be really good at that next thing. And now I'm starting to like compartmentalize it. And then you get more defined results.
So yeah, we're really nerding out here at the moment, but that's exactly how I do it, is that you start with the core element within these automation platforms, get that nailed down, and then call another. So I don't even incorporate it into that main flow. I know that flow is working. Then I call another flow for another task if needed, almost like I'm calling a different tool.
Yes.
But then that on.
And now you can branch, which is been like mind blowing. You were saying something as you're saying pulling stuff in and the projects. each one of our development projects, each one of our real estate properties has their own project. And so we upload like our brand voice, we upload like all the social media links and tools. So like we know that project has every reference of the project brain in no matter what chat we do inside of it. And so now, like, we're helping our business owners not only tell the story of their business and expand and build their business case, but we're helping them automate some parts of their business that maybe they just don't have the time to do. But we've already created everything in doing the project that it's like, okay, well, here, take this, and go forward. It's just amazing how much you can do in a certain amount of time now.
Yeah. I've been telling people that, in the real estate investing world, we typically will jump to some sort of virtual assistant. I think that the first step is just say, let's face fact. I mean, this is where things are headed. We can typically automate some of that.
Yeah, and you can ask ChatGPT to automate it, right? Like, what are 5 to 10 automations I should do to enhance my business and my ROI and my time that I can implement in the next 15 to 30 days, So then it's garbage in, garbage out by asking that. It's stepping through like, okay, do you want to build your business? So, I mean, it's that prompt. And I think that you have to first look at you're paying. I mean, let's be honest. It's ridiculous if you're paying the pro, right? It's $20. And how many automations are you getting or that efficiency for $20 a month?
Right.
I mean, max that out first. What do you want it to do?
Yeah. For as much as I use it, I think I've only hit the capacity once.
Really?
Yeah.
I maxed out my deep research. Once I started down that route, I was kind of addicted. Not even gonna.
I think that's going to happen more frequently now with ChatGPT 5. It automatically decides to use those models, so
It does that. Yeah. Complete nerd out. No, but my boys are looking to take the SSAT. So I created a study block for them. And they each have their own tracking and I got my own portal. And I mean, I did all that maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. And it's just, the efficiency is great, but there's still that human element. Like, how do we engage with it? And even to go to real estate, it's how do you bring it into your properties and to your management, to that efficiency and looking at your deals and your projects? We're still human powered at this point, right? So you still got to build the network. You still got to show up how you're going to show up and in integrity, and use it. Like, that's why I said it's AI enhanced human powered, right? Like, you have got to still build your network. You can't just hide behind a computer all day. Deals get done many different ways.
Well, Katie, this was fun to chat about. You can learn more at katiekim.com. That next event is October 10th. There's only going to be 5 slots available. So hopefully when you hear this, there's still an opportunity there, katiekim.com. But Katie, before we jump into the rapid fire and close out this episode, is there anything else we should have hit on?
Yeah, well, to kind of merge the AI during the workshop, the 5 individuals will get 3 custom bots that they can actually use in their business immediately. I'm a big action taker, like get in the game. I don't like to fluff. I would tease that we have that there that'll help with their property management too. I would say if there's anybody who's looking to get into the real estate game, or if you're looking to expand your business, let me know. Give me a call, see what we can help you out with.
Well, Katie, if you're ready, we'll jump into the rapid fire and close out this episode.
Let's.
What lie do real estate investors often tell themselves?
I work with a lot of real estate investors. Glad I hear. What one do they most tell? I think they lie a lot about they tell themselves or other people, I should say. Let me clarify that question.
They tell
themselves like, oh yeah, we can do this. No problem. It would be no problem. They have no idea the complexity that it's actually going to take.
If you could go back in time and give your younger self a piece of advice, what would it be?
Fail faster. Always fail faster. I think we fail forward. I grow so much more from my scars than the accolades or the awards that I've been blessed to receive over the years. And it's just don't second guess yourself, educate yourself to the best of your ability and get in and start doing the reps, because that's where you're really going to learn.
Do you have a book recommendation?
Oh, what am I reading? Well, I'm on the Mel Robin's bandwagon from a development on that side. But I just finished 3 Feet from Gold, which was really good. I love that. The three I normally recommend entrepreneurs to read is The Compound Effect, The E-Myth, and The Entrepreneurial Roller Coaster.
Okay. Then finally, what single process or tool have you implemented that has had the biggest time-saving impact?
Overall, I would say AI. To narrow it down to one tool would be Airtable. That is a force, and automation is insane.
Yeah, just for those people that aren't familiar with Airtable, it's kind of gives you an online database and tables in order to store information. It's just becoming the powerhouse when it comes to data storage online. It is a great tool.
I said it to my husband. I said, it's like Microsoft Excel, Access, and SharePoint had a baby with AI, and it's on steroids. I mean, we've recreated software packages customized to our clients' operations with it within an hour. It's been insane.
The only other one that I've seen that comes close is Boost Space. I don't know if you've seen that,
I'll pick that out.
but it has Make baked in.
Oh, that would be nice.
So it has the table functionality inside the platform.
Check that out for sure.
So, Katie, this was just great. One last time, it was katiekim.com. You can learn more information there. I'll have all the corresponding links in the show notes. But really appreciate your time, Katie. This was great. And I hope you'll consider coming back.
Likewise, I would love to come back.